Hi, Dan Kuschell, founder of growthtofreedom.com, millionairesmindset.com, and prosperitybasedliving.com. Thanks for making us part of your day. If you're joining us new for the first time, whether you're catching us on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you're finding us, I'm glad to have you a part of this. Today's episode is all about simplicity, clarity, and focus. Because let me ask you, as an entrepreneur, have you ever found yourself in a position where you were in limbo with your team, with your company, with your staff? Have you ever found yourself where you were, essentially, confused or, not really clear on what people were doing and, how productive if you have payroll, how productive people are actually being? So today's episode is about giving you a tool. In fact, let me ask you this. If I could provide you a simple one-page tool that you could use to manage your entire company, all departments, on a weekly basis, how valuable would that be to you? What would that be worth? So that's what we're going to do today, and I'm going to jump right into it because this is a tool that I've developed. I've been fortunate to personally operate approximately 13 different companies, and over time this has evolved. I've also integrated this into several companies that we've worked with. I'm working with it with clients currently, and it's always a work in progress, but I found this one-page tool to be one of the most valuable pieces of management to help as an entrepreneur get peace of mind, get great clarity, and also get amazing things done. So let's dive into it. In fact, this is a sample of the tool itself, and whether you put it on a landscape or you design your own, I want to give you the formula to be able to make it work. So the first part of this is, if you're following some of our planning processes, I recommend having quarterly strategy sessions with your key core people on a regular basis. Now, maybe you do this monthly, maybe you do it quarterly, maybe you only do it annually for some reason. But number one, you want to identify your 5 key objectives. Your 5 key objectives in the company. Out of all the things that you could be doing that could be revenue producing, that could be the most important thing. There's a book that Perry Marshall wrote here recently. It's called the 80-20 principle. And you've probably heard this before. It goes off of, I believe it's Pareto's principle, which says that you get 80% of the results from 20% of the effort, right? So what are your 80% result factors that you can produce overall? So identify key objective 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if you do this on a quarterly basis or monthly basis, of course, these are going to adapt and change. Now, key projects support your key objectives. So, in doing this and in establishing this one-page simple tool, essentially you can see here we've got the quarterly focus, we've got the 5 key objectives defined, and we have them listed across the top. And then we have the objective or the projects that support those objectives. And it's really important to identify, who's in charge, what is the project, when is it due, and what's the status as of now. And there are different status points, so I want to walk you through each of these pieces. First, you're going to title the project. So you'll title the project so that you and your team know exactly, and there's clarity around what that is. Number 2 is you're going to establish who's in charge. There's nothing worse than a person who doesn't know that they're in charge, that is essentially the person in charge, and vice versa. If you're the owner of the company, you don't know who's in charge, so now what do you have to do? You have to send an email to 12 people in your company to identify one person who's going to step up and take responsibility. So you want to identify the who's in charge. Now, of course, you as the entrepreneur, you're always in the control position, right? You're the one in control. So the who is very important. Number 3, key part of this management system is the when. When is it due? All right? So, let's face it. Have you ever set a deadline before that you didn't hit? Your team will too. So, whens are really important because, Brian Tracy says there's no such thing as an unreasonable goal, only an unreasonable deadline. So, a person on your team, the person in charge, call it Sally, she may establish a when, and as that due date comes up, it may need to adapt, it may need to adjust, but now you've got a way to communicate not only for you, but also the team on a regular basis, which leads us to the 4th piece of this puzzle, which is status. What's the status? Is it completed? Is it in progress? Is it pending? Or is it on hold? There's essentially 4 categories that we've defined, and again, you can define these on your own, but imagine having a one-page tool. Now this one-page tool here that I've got, essentially we've got the key objectives, all 5 listed. We have 36 supporting projects that balance and focus that are driving the results of those objectives. See, imagine on a weekly basis being able to sit down with your team and be able to go over these. What we do when we have these completed, we highlight them. We have approximately of the quarterly focus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of 36 already accomplished, and many behind it. Some of these adapt, they change. But as a business owner, I want you to imagine your team being able to provide this to you. You're traveling anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country, and you get this one-page tool to know where everything's at. How much clarity would that give you? Imagine each of the departments of your team setting up their operation structure to be able to communicate not only with you this way, but also their team. See, what we do, we integrate this simple tool in the companies we work with, in our companies. We sit down, and what ends up happening is that every week we meet and discuss this, and we give updates on where things are at in the project. If we need to adjust deadlines, we get with people who are in charge. So it's just a very effective, simple way to build and grow your business. And this is one tool. We have something that we established called the 7 metrics to maximum profits. And this is one of the 7 tools that we use. And we're not going to go into the full 7 metrics today, but that gives you a quick snapshot. So I want to challenge you here today that establish your 5 key objectives, communicate those with your team, put them in writing, and put them in a system, call it a one-page system, a one-page tool, so that they are able to see those on a regular basis. Understand that key projects support those objectives, and identify the project, who's in charge, when is it due, and what's the status. And put this in place, and I challenge you. That's the end of our journey for today. But I can tell you, if you'll put this in place, imagine where you could be in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road. You think you'd have more clarity, more focus, more direction, getting more important things done, hitting those important 80% gold nuggets instead of the silver and bronze? I promise you that'll happen. So thanks for being with us today. We'll see you on another episode right around the corner. Talk soon.